Good morning. Thank you for joining us today. It's February 8th, 2024 for the TDC meeting. If we could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. Pledge of Allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please be seated. We do a roll call, please.
Commissioner Cecil Pendergrass.
Here.
Councilwoman Holly Smith.
Here.
Fran Myers. Councilman Elizabeth Bichette.
Present.
Edwin Cronin. Tony Lappy. Jay Johnson.
Here.
Bill White-Chulis.
Here. Good morning.
Councilman Bill Snakey.
Here.
Councilman Larry Fiesel.
Here.
Rob Wells, Mayor Dan Allers, and Councilman Nigel Polik are excused. Tony Lappy is running a bit late. At this time, we do not have a quorum.
Do not have a quorum? Okay.
Not at this time.
Okay.
One short.
Well, should I just go ahead and skip the public to be heard then, and
You
can do that?
The approval of the minutes, because you don't have enough, but you can go on with the
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. That's why I do the public to be heard.
public to be
Yeah.
heard.
So at this time, we'll skip the minutes approval. Do we have public to be heard? Any public to be heard at this time? John?
Good morning, Council, Commissioner, and all the visitors. My name is John Lai. I'm the President and CEO of the San Bel Captiva Chamber of Commerce, and currently the FRLA, Florida Restaurant Lodging Association Regional Director for Lee, Charlotte, and Collier. I'm going to put my FRLA hat on for a second here and just announce that we just got back from Tallahassee, where we had a productive tourism day, and very excited about the fact that we also just announced on Friday that Chris Lopez, who some of you may or may not know, formerly of TICO and the Realtors Association Government Relations, will actually be taking over my region. In probably the next 30 days or so, we'll onboard him, get him up to speed. And at the 21st, our luncheon on the 21st, which will be at Sanibel Harbor Resort and Spa, where Ben Siegel will be speaking, we'll introduce him to the rest of the world and introduce our new board for the Florida Restaurant Lodging Association Lee County chapter as well. Also, I'm going to take that hat off now, put on my San Bel Captiva Chamber hat. Wanted to update you all on the fact that we recently had our State of the Islands meeting summit at Sanibel Harbor Resort and Spa, and had over 230 people in attendance there. It was fantastic. One of the things I wanted to point out was that we rolled out our business climate study that we've partnered with FGCU to do for us. And so just to get a good idea with some data behind what is currently open, when things will currently open, and then update that every 3 months so that we have a current outlook every quarter. And so just really quickly, we'll read off some of the accommodations findings off the executive summary for you. We found out that 48% said their businesses had more than 100 units prior to Hurricane Ian. 38% said that none of their total units were currently available for occupancy, while another 14% stated that only 1 to 20% of their units were available. Only 2 respondents said that all their units were currently available, so if Tony Lappy was here, I would thank him for answering that. Of the respondents who said their accommodations were not fully operational, 18% attributed at least 34% chance that their business will be available in the next 6 months. This share increased to 50% in the next 12 and 67% in the next 18, 93% over the next 24. So this gives us a good baseline for what we could expect in the next 2 years. And then it goes on. The good news here is that non-accommodations, we had 79% who said they were currently open for business in some way, shape, or form. So that's good news. However, we know that with 79% of non-accommodation businesses open, with only 16% of accommodation businesses open, that poses its own particular set of challenges for us. So, as I always do, I invite you out to visit Sanibel and Captiva Islands in your free time to visit the 79% of non-accommodation businesses that are currently open. We also, as a chamber, wrapped up our 2023 year in review. Just wanted to get a feel for what visitors were doing on our site, where they were pointing to. Just some really quick stats here. We had, where we typically see 1.8 million people roughly to our website, we had just over 1 million website views last year. and 459 referrals. That's down from 889,000 referrals. I'm sorry, 459,650 referrals. That's down from roughly 890,000 referrals the year before. A lot of that is because, obviously, the businesses that we're referring to aren't currently open. Social media, we had 1.515 million reach and 77,571 followers. That's relatively flat. We're down about 200,000 social media reach for the year. And then we had in the visitor center, this was the most sobering, where we had 211 on average pre-Ian in that year. We just broke the 110 mark for February month to date so far, but in 2023, walking through the visitor center doors, we saw 41 on average. So the good news is, if you go to sandcapoutlook.com, you'll be able to read the entire 41-page document that FGCU has provided for the business climate survey, and then every 90 days you can read what's updated from there. So that's my report for today, and if you have any questions, happy to answer.
Great, thank you. I have a question. Bill?
It's a rhetorical question, but what's the challenges those hotels are seeing and getting back online faster?
So let me read for you. 4 obstacles identified for accommodations businesses were not currently fully operational were construction-related issues, and in that is lumped in supply chain, access to labor, and condo association-related issues. And as we know, most of our resort properties in the resort housing district on Sanibel are condo associations, and so Commissioner Smith or Councilwoman Smith will back me up on the fact that they've got a myriad of issues facing them right now, from assessments to insurance to whether or not they need to completely knock down and rebuild. And some of those buildings, unfortunately, have not yet been touched.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else from the public who wish to speak? Okay, we'd like to have the municipalities. Any municipalities here like to present?
Good morning, everyone. There we go. I'm Sharon Woodbury, Economic Development Manager for the City of Cape Coral, and I also have one of my trusted staff and team members with me as well, Andriana. And we're just going to talk to you about some of the exciting events that are happening in the City of Cape Coral and developments, so that you can be more familiar with what's in the pipeline and in the works. So I'm going to let Andriana speak.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Andriana Peterson. So these are all our upcoming events all the way into July. Our most recent one will be taking place this weekend, which is our bike night. It's the second event for our bike nights. We have 3 each year. So if you haven't checked it out, I encourage you to. We also have our Music and Art Fusion Walk coming up on February 17th. Each week we highlight a local business, so our Economic and Business Development Spotlight. These were the most recent for last quarter, highlighting the Greek Spa and Grazing House. Busy Bee is a kids salon, Palace Pub, Crisp Creperie, Bones Coffee. We had a total of 536 Facebook likes, comments of 104, and 111 shares on Facebook. And our Instagram had 306 likes and 15 comments for these businesses. Newly opened and coming soon. So Brunch and Love Boat Ice Cream east of Chicago are all newly opened businesses. East of Chicago actually has opened 3 locations here in Cape Coral, and we will welcome soon Lucky's Lucky 13 Pub, which is a Midwest establishment, Twin Peaks, and Hooked is making their way back to Cape Coral. They were, for some of you that may be familiar, were in Matlacha and then came to Fort Myers after they lost their business after the storm. So we're excited to have these businesses. Tourism Spotlight for Cultural Park is a 16-acre multi-use park. We have different events from the Jazz Festival and car shows. February 10th, we have a tree conservation project taking place. Volunteers are needed if anybody would like to join in. Our Burrowing Owl Festival will be taking place on February 24th, another wonderful event that we host at Rotary Park. And an update on the Cape Coral Quest with a total of 108 people who have signed up so far, 1,373 check-ins, 69 prizes awarded, 24 coupons redeemed, 22 people who have entered to stay at the Westin for that contest, and then there will be a Sunsplash season pass that just will not be available until March, so that's why there's no folks that have registered yet. Our Yacht Club. So these are not approved plans yet, but these are the final concepts that will be, is it voted on? So.
So everyone's probably very familiar with the Yacht Club and the site that was devastated by the hurricane. What you see before you is a site plan that includes quite a bit of parking. We're proposing to have just over 500 parking spaces. It's a 3-level deck, but it probably will expand to 4 initially. A resort-style pool. We're going to bring in, for those who are not familiar, you know, we've got the tiki hut that's there and very popular, but we'll be bringing in a second commercial restaurant there, so P3 will be happening there. We'll have a much more usable space in terms of the facilities. The idea was to look at making this where we can have more than one event at a time. The way that the Yacht Club was designed initially, once someone had that space, you couldn't use it for anything else. So we'll be hosting banquets and weddings and things of that nature. So the architectural renderings are forthcoming, but that's an overlook of the site and kind of a sneak peek of what you can expect to see.
Thank you.
And that's it. Thank you.
I have a question. At the Yacht Club, with the facility space, is that can be run by the city or is that can be a private company?
So we haven't gotten that far yet in terms of how that will be managed. You know, we've had some other facilities where we did a public-private type of structure. It hasn't been established at this time.
Thank you.
I can help you. I'll see you later.
Thank you. Any other city next year?
Good morning, everyone. I am Karen Woodson, Councilwoman for Town of Fort Myers Beach, and I'm here today, let's see if I get this right, there we go. I'm here today to discuss the rebuilding of our fishing pier. On September 28th of 2022, Hurricane Ian devastated not only our town, our whole area, but our popular fishing pier. There we go. As your research indicates, 1.6 million of the 4.3 million visitors to Lee County visit our Fort Myers Beach fishing pier, making it the #1 tourist attraction in Lee County if you remove the beach. More than visit Ford and Edison Estates, Sanibel Lighthouse, or other Lee County attractions. Currently, the county has solicited and selected an engineering and architectural firm for the design of the new fishing pier. If successful negotiating a contract with the county, Stantec, a very large, capable firm, will begin the design and engineering of our replacement pier. With regards to FEMA participation, the process unfolds in the following manner. The county designs an exact replacement with added height as per flood regulations. FEMA then allows additional funds for extra resilience and current ADA standards. The county submits these designs to FEMA so they can make a monetary determination as to how much they will contribute to the rebuilding of a new pier. Any additional monies required to make improvements to the pier, such as the width or the length, are the responsibility of the local community. And this is why I'm here today to talk about this. Oh, I don't know what happened there. But pursuant to the FMB Council's unanimously approved proclamation I delivered to the Board of County Commissioners, it's our desire to improve and pursue a more resilient, improved, and larger pier that the visitors to our community can enjoy. As an advisory council to the Lee County Board of Commissioners, we are here today to ask for your help in funding and advising the BOCC to improve our pier. As the Town Council's liaison to the Let's Go FMB group, I've witnessed their peer committee conduct and gather tremendous amount of research. This research included site visits and interviews to over 24 peers and towns' elected officials, a survey of over 9,400 residents and visitors to Lee County, and a thorough review of the state of Florida's 600-page pier construction guidebook, and much more. Capacity, safety, and appearance are the driving factors in addition to public perception of what simply announcing an improved pier project means for increased tourism and increased morale. 98.5% of all respondents desired some form of improvement to our new pier. Not surprisingly, 6,407 respondents wanted to see more resilience. 6,041 desire a wider pier. 4,659 a larger area for sunset and horizon viewing. 1,536 for a longer pier, and 1,630 for a larger area for fishing. Additional improvements requested by the respondents to the pier survey included benches, more shaded areas, photo op spaces, and a dedicated area for the fishing pier. For fishing. So this is the original proposal that is pictured here of the pier. The final design will be determined by the selected firm. However, this is a design that incorporates a large amount of the improvements that we're requesting. Beginning at the beach of the pier, pictured as 20 feet wide, 950 feet long, with 2 bump outs to accommodate additional shade structures, photo ops, and areas of educational opportunities that display the town's history, fishing information, and marine life. The end of the pier is larger with a separation between the fishing portion and the public, while still allowing interaction between the two, which is the most fun part when visiting the pier. Pictured here, and again, the final design will be created by Stantec, but this is an example of a larger and lower area for fishing, less distance to reel in the big fish, right? The viewing area is 2 levels to accommodate more sunset viewers with unobstructed views and shade for those who want it. Again, these are all just suggestions that came from FMB. There are many reasons for a larger size. As mentioned earlier, capacity is a major concern. I think we can all agree that more, not less people will be staying on and visiting on FMB in the near future. The added length will also create a boat lane that is further from the shoreline, creating a greater buffer between the boating and swimming areas. The additional length create a better fishing experience. An idea floating around the internet is to create a pier that measures 928 feet long by 22 feet wide. The date that took out our pier, 9/28/22. Displayed here are some piers. Displayed here are some piers drawn to scale. The old FMB pier is pictured in the center at 560 feet. To the north are a few East Coast piers visited by the Pier Committee, and to the south are the Gulf Coast piers. Piers on the Florida Gulf Coast are substantially longer due to shallow waters and greater access for bigger fish. The 13 public Florida Gulf Coast piers' average length is 1,065 feet. We are not asking for quite that much, but we are looking for something that's greater than average in our county. In addition, most of the municipalities have fewer residents and visitors that are showing up here. With regard to the width of our pier, the increased dimension directly addresses the capacity, appearance, and resilience that we pointed out in the earlier piece of the presentation. A narrow, tall structure simply looks odd. Additional width not only increases capacity, it also creates additional resilience by distributing wave energy over a large surface. Anyone who went on the pier in season realizes it was very crowded. Currently, we do not have an exact amount required to improve the #1 tourist attraction of Lee County. BOCC has agreed to instruct Stantec to determine what exactly that amount will be. It will be a major commitment that we seek from the TDC. Currently, we are estimating that amount to be somewhere in the area of 8 to 10 million, but this is simply a guesstimate. It could be much less, but it's a substantial sum, and we hope you'll agree it's a prudent investment for Lee County tourism and economic growth, one that will show true returns for Lee County TDC. Thank you so much. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Here,
Bill?
go ahead, Bill. I just had just a quick comment on the one rendering that you had, and I think the dual level on the terminus point. I think that's a great idea. Just a comment would be that it would seem like the lower section should be on the other side for sunset viewing and whatnot. That.
The lower section is actually the fishing side, and we have it on the opposite side of where sunset is. So where people would be viewing the covered area there, that is actually where you would see the sunset off the pier. And the lower part is the fishing. Does that make sense?
Well, no, I understand it makes sense, but I would believe that you could fish from either side. But at sunset, if one level is higher than the other, the sun would be, that building, if you will, the pavilion in the center, is going to block the view of anyone that's on the fishing side. So at sunset, if the fishing side was on the other side, you'd have more people to be able to see the sunset from both levels. Just a thought.
Yeah, and like I said, these are just renderings. There's nothing set in stone. I was asked on Monday to actually show some ideas, and so that simply is what it is. It's just the original ideas.
Fabulous idea.
I asked Karen a question earlier, and maybe Karen, I asked if we could build a restaurant out there and then lease it out and help, obviously, like if you've been to Daytona, you got Joe's Crab Shack at the end. It's a great lease for Daytona. Maybe St. Pete has it too, right? But I got shot down, and I let Karen let everybody know why it's not a good idea.
Yeah. It wasn't me that shot him down. There are really increased restrictions that FEMA allows in rebuilding, and one of them is to have anything mechanical out on the pier. So whereas before we used to have like a little bait shack and a little gift shop and that kind of thing, and because it has mechanicals or running water, we can't have any of that out there anymore, is what we've been told. Now, I know there's a lot of piers that are grandfathered in that have it. If there's any way we can get around it, we will be looking for every possible avenue, but that's the first thing that we were told.
Gotta love government.
But I also assume you have to be able to drive a vehicle on the pier if you're going to have a restaurant at the end.
Well, that's true, because you have to get all kind of supplies. Right.
Vehicle to go out.
Yeah.
too.
I'm just
Much
curious,
bigger
though,
Facility than 22 feet wide.
Go bigger or go home.
Yep, I hear you. I'm just saying that very different structure.
right.
Holly, Councilwoman Smith?
Thank you, Karen. And I think a lot of that has to do with who owns it. So St. Pete Pier is more, I'm not sure if that's owned by the city of St. Pete or not. So I think that has a lot of consideration. I realize this is very conceptual. I'm going to leave it to the experts as you all design it through. Few questions I have. This is county-owned property, is it not?
Yes, we've already voted, and we already gave direction to do the other pier. So that's where the county is as of today, because of permitting and for funding in the town of Fort Myers Beach, I guess, would approach about if they'd fund the difference of the $30 or $40 million. They didn't have the funds for that.
Okay, and because that was going to be, my next question. And first, when I think about the Fort Myers Beach Pier, that to you all is like the Sanibel Lighthouse is to us.
Exactly.
So I realize what a beacon that is for all of you. And then my question was in regards to the funding. If the county, they're moving forward on funding for one particular pier, this is coming out at a different direction. That's going to be additional funding. I know you're going to be seeking that and certainly looking to what type of a match Fort Myers Beach will be contributing. I think it's probably too early because you said that you do not yet have, any of the idea of you have a guesstimate, but not really firm costs.
Right.
So that'll be a question. And I just, it's funny that you put this forward. And when I look at the TDC, I was going over some things last night and I came back to like 2018, believe it or not, of what the reserves are actually for. And when I read that, it was interesting to read that these reserves are to fund recessions and unexpected costs. And I'd like to, unexpected costs should also include any natural event. So I think there's, when we look at what our reserves are for, whether they're sitting there, not being used, these are examples of potential uses that can really rebound our economy. I'm going to reserve until we find out what you're actually looking at, how you're looking at it, but I'm glad to see that you're thinking forward on your beacon.
Thank you. Well, and it's interesting to see, even now, we only have maybe 35% of our hotel rooms back and ability to stay, so we have a lot of day trippers that come in because they want to go to the beach. They want to see sunset. They are congregating around the posts that are left of the pier that are still there, and they're still visiting, but you think there could be more and more and more. And when we do come back and we have, hopefully by the end of the year, another 50% of our hotels or 50% of our short-term rentals in place, it's just going to bring more and more and more people. And this, like I said, is the #1 visitor attraction in Lee County. So it just makes sense that if we could build it back bigger and better, we would love to do that.
What's timeline-wise that we're estimating?
The last time I asked questions about that, and what the county is doing now, this is the city's time to talk real quick, so I'll be really brief, is we're looking at building within the permitted use now, so we have to go back out for re-permits for FEMA, but Army Corps of Engineers and everything. So probably 4 years or less because of removal, bidding for the construction, and then placement. We still have to get it was already permitted the way it is now. If we change it, we make it longer, it would start over again. You're looking at probably 8 to 10 years if you do that, go through Army Corps of Engineers. So we're looking to try to do it as fast as possible and make it nicer. So we are looking at making it wider too and doing enhancements. So it will be nicer than what we had before and wider. But it's just if you go farther out in the Gulf, it's obviously changed everything. And that's what I've been told from staff. So that's why we already gave direction to the staff to start the process for the replacement of the original footprint of the pier.
Obviously, I'm biased being on Fort Myers Beach, but as Karen said, this is a beacon. There is nothing worse than a guest coming to Fort Myers Beach for the first time and seeing those columns sitting out there. I mean, for
It's
for
daunting.
4 years that to happen.
It's daunting.
It's a huge detractor, so.
I'm trying to find out when we actually get those removed, the process. This is, the company that does that, we pretty much the company that builds the new bridge, so it's kind of like a one-part thing. You don't really have them come in and remove the posts, I guess, and come back, 6 months later to start building it, so, but we are trying to get that done as soon as possible, though.
We built a bridge to Sanibel in
3 weeks.
days,
3
4 to
weeks.
cross.
21 days, I'm sorry, 21 days.
That fact keeps coming up over and over.
Sand.
So we've been waiting for
A little
FEMA.
bit different though.
The problem is we didn't have to wait for FEMA reimbursements, that the governor took care of that for us, so this one is FEMA reimbursement and its approval, so.
And in fairness, that was access to our island for us to be able to even
This is
exist.
a,
It wasn't a
the amenity,
recreational
so they look at things
facility.
differently, like a
But
sign.
not to get into the weeds, but what about us just funding it and then getting the FEMA reimbursement to keep it moving? No?
Can't do that.
Lawyer's shaking her head.
Lawyer's shaking her head.
You don't like that pitch? You don't like that pitch, huh?
I don't know, I
Pay
kind
for
of
it,
like
you
your
pay for
ideas.
it.
I think that's a great idea.
It's gonna take years to build no matter what, the construction itself. Not just the permitting and everything, but the actual construction.
Yes, sir.
Just one comment, one question. The one comment had to do with the restaurant at the end. As we looked at the yacht club in Cape Coral, evidently one of the issues that was brought up to us by having a restaurant at the end of the pier, we were looking at putting a second pier in and a restaurant at the end, was, I guess whether it was EPA or whatever it was, is the getting grease back and forth up the pier, down the pier, and going over the natural resource, if you will, in doing that. They said that there was some hoops to jump through or prohibitions or complications, if you would. That's what we were told anyway. And I don't know whether it's the grandfathering in being able to do it in the past and maybe more restrictions now. I don't know, but that was some of the feedback we got. And then the one question that I had was on the Cape Coral Pier, we had to do a study of the actual existing stanchions that were there. Has there been a study done of these stanchions? Are we going to be able to reuse them, or are we going to have to replace them?
Stanchions, you mean the pilings?
Yeah, the pilings.
Pilings.
Oh, I gotta imagine those pilings are gonna need to be replaced.
Be all new.
So they got to remove and do all new pilings. Okay.
Well, and they're so much lower, too, than what is required now. And they're heavily damaged, heavily damaged. So I think the whole thing, from my understanding, it all has to come out before they rebuild.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. I appreciate the time.
Okay. Any other cities that wish to be heard? Okay, and do we have a quorum now? Tony's here?
Wasn't my fault.
Yeah.
Doctor, let's blame it on the doctor.
We're glad you
8
made
o'clock
it.
appointment, we didn't get to see him till 9. I actually walked out before he showed it.
We're glad you're here. Do we have a quorum now? Yes. Okay, good. Okay, we'll go back to approval of the January 11, 2024 TDC minute meetings. So we have a motion for that? We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Any public comment on the minutes? Come back, any objection? No objection? Okay, thank you. And no other municipalities be heard, and we'll go ahead and to Cameron.
All
Board
right.
Executive Director, thank you.
December bed tax collection report, 3.5 million. That's a 20.7% increase over the same period last year. And for the fiscal year to date, we're at 8.7 million, up 12.3% over last year. Tony and Bill and Rob, these are for you. You like these trend ones. So 5-year, where does this December fall over the last 5 years? I would only argue that 19 would be the most normal number in that 5-year span. So it is a little bit under December of 2019, but I think what you see there is what we all know, missing those coastal hotel rates, which we'll see for the next few months. In terms of STAR, occupancy in December was down 63.4%. Was the occupancy rate, ADR at 156.50 and RevPAR at 99.18. And when you look at the calendar year, I know it's a decrease, but I want to point out that we had the highest calendar year occupancy on the West Coast in terms of our competitive set that we look at when you look at the full STAR report that's in your packet. We beat Pinellas, Sarasota, Collier, Manatee, Charlotte, and even Palm Beach on the East Coast. Of course, the East Coast typically wins the occupancy rate, and always Monroe comes in top at 74.9. But I think it is interesting to see that we did win the West Coast for calendar year 23. So I know it's hard to see the numbers down, but they're down across the board. Next slide. There you can see the 5-year trend on all three components, and it is interesting that ADR is matching up pretty closely with 2019. But obviously with inflation, that is a very different number than it was in 2019. Key data. Starting in December, we're starting to see positive indicators on vacation rentals. My guess is a lot of the units are starting to be repaired and reopened. That's good news. The look-ahead numbers for January and February look good. March through May is down over last year, not as strong, but when I look at the rate, there may be some rate resistance. Rate is up 20 to 35% compared to 23 and nearly in line with 2021 rates. So we'll see if that has time to recover in terms of the occupancy number. But as you see, December was a strong month. And hopefully we'll start to see some rebounding there since it is such a large portion of our bed tax. In terms of our hotel room update, you see we have a slight increase to the total number of opened rooms. Bill, I think you're about 100%. You're getting close to 100% at Pink Shell.
I am at 100%.
You are now at 100%. Woohoo! I think when we called early in the month, you had a few still unopened, but it sounds like that's awesome.
That's just some customers last night, by the way.
Oh, thanks.
That's good news. South Seas also opened some more units, so that's pretty much what you're seeing there. A few more units opened at Margaritaville and also the Hampton Inn downtown, but not a significant change from what you saw last month. I wanted to share with you the next couple of slides. I don't do this regularly, but only occasionally, but hotels under construction. Right now, we have 6 properties under construction in Lee County, and that totals 742 rooms. The last one on the list, the Studio Res, there was a groundbreaking a few weeks ago for that. We had the CEO of Marriott in town, and that is the first of that brand. It's a new Marriott brand. It's a limited service hotel down on Alico Road near the Home Depot, or off of Alico Road, I should say, near Home Depot. So that 742 rooms means more than 250,000 room nights coming to the area in 25 and 26. And then in terms of what CoStar says is in the final planning stage, we have another 1,402 rooms that are in the final planning stage. Again, some of those are hoping to get under construction in 25. That is, I believe year built stands for when the build begins, not when it's complete, just to be clear. And of course, no guarantees that every one of these will be constructed, but they are in final planning. That's another more than 500,000 room nights coming. And of course, none of this represents, the projects being discussed at Fort Myers Beach or Sanibel, which we know there are projects being discussed, but until they're a little bit further along, you will not see them on these lists. But I just wanted to give you an update of where things stand in terms of what's out there in the pipeline. Good news at the airport, a 27% increase in passengers in December. And amazingly, for the calendar year, just slightly behind the record-breaking year that was 2022. Over 10 million passengers through the airport. So the strength at the airport is very good. Additionally, I want to share two items with you. On Tuesday, the commissioners approved the process to look at refinancing some tourist development tax revenue bonds. The anticipated savings of that would be about $1 million, and the county has a policy that if it's more than a 3% savings on that particular bond issue, they will look at refinancing it when the call comes up, and we are at that point. So fingers crossed that they will go through that process, identify a good bond rate, and we'll save some money on that bond. And also I wanted to let you know that at the next TDC meeting, which is April 11th, we do not have a March meeting. Steve Boutel from Natural Resources will give us an update on beach renourishment projects, and we are a little anxious based on the initial bid that came in for Fort Myers Beach, significantly above anticipated cost there. That project is being rebid, and they're anticipating, I believe those bids will come in March. So by the time we get around to April, Steve will be able to give us a better idea. But there may be some unanticipated cost increases because we have a number of projects that will be moving forward this year and next. So we want to make sure that we're all on the same page as we go into the beach and shoreline projects. Obviously, those beach renourishment projects are always your first priority. So just wanted to let you know that that's coming. Any questions for me? All right, well, with that, I'm going to ask Joseph to come up and give us the fourth quarter 2023 report, so October through December. Thank you, Joseph.
Thank you very much. Again, Joseph St. Germain, I'm the president of Downs and St. Germain Research. Thanks again for having me. As they get the PowerPoint all together, since we're looking at October through December 2023, comparisons to 2022 right after the hurricane are a bit strange. So throughout, I'm going to spend a little bit more time on the economic impact and other metrics because we're going to look at 2023 versus 2022, then also compare it to 2021, which was kind of our height, and then also a 5-year look. So you can kind of see how we all look all the way around. So I'll spend a little less time on the visitor itself. Let me start with how we compare to October to December 2022 right after the hurricane. Visitation up significantly, and visitor days, room nights, expenditures, economic impact around the increases in TDT. One of the things I want to note on this slide, this is a nice pictorial of why the visitor number isn't always the best figure to understand the entire tourism economy. As we look year over year, there was a smaller travel party size and length of stay was shorter in 2023. This results in more visitors, but not as much as economic impact. From a narrative perspective, in 2022, you probably had you had a lot of people who were here to help with recovery. One person per room, maybe staying longer periods of time. So that's why that's how that whole thing looks together. But again, we do see growth compared to last year. However, if we compare this to 2021, which is kind of the peak, and also even 2021 is a tough comp because that was inflated a little bit by the whole system. Visitation is down 30%, room nights are down 27%, economic impact down 25%. So there's still plenty of recovery to be had so I just want to give you those two pictures as we look at those. And then this is the year-to-date. Year-to-date really looks very comparable to what we saw on the last slide, but visitation, room nights, direct spend down in about that 26 to 29% range. So again, overall, there is some definite recovery to go as we go along the way. But ultimately, for a calendar year for 2023, almost 3 million visitors, over 4.3 million room nights, almost $3 billion in direct spend, and over $4.6 billion in economic impact. So not as high as you have seen before, but at the same time, strong in many different ways. As you saw some lodging statistics, so in October through December, occupancy was up. Occupancy is up a little bit also, but you have a lot more units available. So that's filling a lot more rooms. ADR and RevPAR is down. As I look at the ADR and RevPAR figures, what you're dealing with here is different what the rest of the state is dealing with. But also at the same time, we are seeing a lot of across the board. So even the places that aren't dealing with hurricane recovery are getting to a normalization closer to those 2019 figures. Here are some of the graphs of the 5-year look at occupancy rate, average daily rate, and RevPAR. As you can see, we're off, especially when we look at RevPAR, we're definitely off that high of 2021. But as we recover, at the same time, you'll see ADR getting close to 2019 levels, and ADR has been fairly consistent across the board. And I'm also going to look at the 5-year look at, here's visitation and room nights. Some of the 5-year graphs that Tam just showed a little bit ago mirror what we're seeing in room nights. So visitation is down. Room nights are down from 2019. At the same time, we see direct spend, as you compare it to 2019, is about the same. Now, to Tamara's point earlier, part of that's inflation, but just to give you a sense of where we stand to pre-pandemic levels. So direct spend, economic impact, about the same as 2019, but you do see that 2019 dip for 2020, a great 2021, and now a dip for 22 and some recovery along the way. That's our whistle-stop tour through the economics, but let me just touch on a few things related to your visitor. The average trip planning cycle is about 3 months, and you still have about, even the folks who visited over a quarter were considering other destinations. An important metric to follow, because that does mean you have a lot of folks who are coming, had decided to come here, but you still have some folks who are on the fence before coming, and something, whether it be marketing or a variety of other things, push that over the edge. They come to relax and unwind, visit friends and relatives, and we see the reason for coming, the beach, get into the top 3 for the first time in a little while. So we're starting to see the beach not only just being something that they do, but the reason that they're coming. And pre-hurricane, it was the #1 reason. But at the same time, it's nice to see the beach show up again. In terms of marketing recall, 4 and 5 recalled promotions. Again, I make a point to say this is recall. It's not exposure. This was asked when they got here, do you remember an ad? So it's not only did they see it and exposed to it, they still remember it when they got here. And about 1/5 of your visitors were influenced by promotions. The top sources of recall continues to be digital, internet, social media, #1 and #2 by a significant portion, but also travel reviews, blogs, televisions, important places where your visitors messages. 69%, nearly 70% flew to the Fort Myers area, and the vast majority, if they're flying in to this area, they're flying in through RSW. In terms of your profile, we still see the Midwest being your strength. Your strength, that's where your visitors are coming from, and you still have significant percentages from the Southeast and Northeast. I did want to highlight that 13.2% of your visitors were international, led by Canada, but Germany, UK, other Europe markets are still strong. From a conference we just went to, the TTRA Marketing Outlook Forum, we are seeing Canada is nearly at full recovery in terms of coming to the United States. So that was strong, and they're hoping to see Germany, UK, and a lot of Europe coming back in 2024. So hopefully we see increased international as we kind of saw a lot of U.S. visitors go abroad last year. We're hoping to see a lot of Europe coming back to the U.S. this year. In terms of top markets, a lot of usual suspects for you: New York, Atlanta, Chicago, Detroit, Minneapolis, St. Paul, Philadelphia were your top markets of your visitors. In terms of the experience, they're staying almost 6 nights, but over 1 in 4 were visiting for the first time, and about 1 in 4 were also loyal visitors, having visited over 10 times. What are they doing the most? They're relaxing, they're dining out, they're going to the beach, they're visiting friends and relatives, and they're shopping. One of the things about relaxing and unwinding a beach, that tends to be a fairly strong correlation between those two, because the beach tends to be the physical manifestation of what relaxing is and unwinding is for a lot of your visitors. And then finally, how did we do? What was their visitor satisfaction? 90% were likely to recommend the area, 85% are likely to return, and about 2/3 are likely to return next year. If we look at pre-hurricane levels, these are going to be lower than what those are. So there is something to that recovery that they still have to. We still have a little bit ways to go in terms of satisfaction. But their concerns, #1 is traffic. Granted, every time we ask the concerns, traffic is #1, and literally every destination. But 1 in 5 mentioned high prices. That's something that we've seen more and more and more across the state. 1 in 8 mentioned hurricane recovery. But at the same time, only 1 in 4 said there was nothing they disliked about the area. Finally, just some descriptors. I'll read a couple, but these are quotes directly from your visitor. We're having a fabulous time. The area has a beautiful environment. We spent tons of time relaxing in the sunshine and even did a little fishing. I've been coming here for years, and I've even convinced some of my friends to come out and try it, and eventually buy here too. Reasonably safe, family friendly, close to the beach. And finally, kind of the barometer of how things are looking. This is how it looked for, this comes from talking to your hoteliers and vacation rental owners. As we look at January through March reservations, which we're currently in right now, it was more up than down at the same time. 2 in 5 said up, 1 in 4 said the same, and 1/3 said down. So that's kind of like a shrug. So there isn't much there. Woo, that was fun. But as we look to April through June, less positive. And frankly, this graph is kind of what we're seeing with a lot of places across the state. When I get back to normalization, this is a year-over-year comparison. So we're really getting back to a world wide web of travel and that kind of thing. So this is what we're seeing across the state. So I wasn't too surprised to see this. So at the same time, where it looked January through March looked okay, we're going to see a little bit more softening in April through June. Again, this is based upon the view of hoteliers, rental owners, things of that nature. So that's a whistle-stop tour through October through December. I know that's a lot to take in. At the same time, I know the full report's around 150 slides, so if you're bored this weekend or want to do something leading up to the Super Bowl, there's a lot there, but happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions? Yes, sir.
Thank you. On the slide that you had as it related to visitor activities, it talked about relaxing, unwinding, dining out, beach, visiting, shopping. Is there anything in the metrics when you ask for the responses, whether they like that to be walkable, or whether, kind of traveling the area is something of interest? Would they rather travel the area to do all those things, or do they like a resort atmosphere where they go one place and they can walk to do all those things?
That's a good question. That's not currently part of the survey, but that is something that we could discuss. I mean, that's one of the things about this survey. I always think it has to constantly be changing as your needs change, but that's not part of the survey currently. So things like that come up occasionally in like some of those open-ended questions, but it's really small, so not enough to bring up. But at the same time, that's something that we could add to the survey if that was the direction of the board and the team.
Okay, thanks.
Holly?
Yeah, on your occupancy barometer, are you breaking those down by location? Because I think you're going to have a big difference between anything close to the water versus inland. I can tell you as a hotelier, for the first time, what we are seeing is a softening now that we haven't seen before. And I think it's because people are heading to other locations. And then the rate, of course, is going to be, probably following. We're used to higher rates for the past few years, but so that's what I'm asking. Are you breaking it down by location at all for these? Because I think that's going to be an important factor.
We haven't yet, but that's something that we could do because we have their location. Overall, for this board, we kind of start with, hey, here's the broad view, and when you have questions like this, we can take a look at that. So we haven't done yet, but we will.
Thank you. Great presentation.
Joseph, the one slide where it talks about 85% of visitors are likely to return, 68% of visitors are likely to return next year. I don't remember. It just seems low. Is that lower than the past?
Yes. I mean, normally that's been a little bit higher. I would have to double check on the likely to return next year because that number I don't recall, and that's.
The likely to return seems pretty close to me. The 85% seems a little lower than normal.
Yeah, if ballpark anecdotally, I would say likely to recommend the area is usually, especially pre-hurricane, was in the 92 to 95 range, so it's a slight dip. And then likely return is usually around high 80s, low 90s. So it's a small dip, but a significant dip nonetheless.
I mean, where I was going with this, that makes me nervous for one, but what we're seeing is people are getting to the resort, and this is for all those that are in local government, these buildings that need to get down, or, it's like, we got to get them cleaned up, we got to get them down, at least be an empty lot, because it is detracting from people wanting to come back. They're like, had a good stay. We'll come back in 2 or 3 years down the road when you're a little bit further along, and I think it's a process, and that's makes me nervous. Is that 68%? I mean, it's 85. I think normally it's in the 90s about returning, and
Close, if not. And I think, also about, I think, if I remember, Joseph, and I'm probably getting the number wrong, about 27% were first-time visitors.
Yeah, right around there.
So, of course,
it's a shock.
It's a little bit of a shock. I mean, I know we're getting used to it, but it's still a shock. And, as we have talked about many times, they have lots and lots of choices of where they can go. And, it's not that shocking given the situation.
It's a domino effect, because what you get is like Clean Waters and me and the Hyatt Coconut Point. We're focusing, the Margaritaville, we're focusing, all right, we got to get these people to stay in our buildings because we don't want them to venture out. Well, you got all these t-shirt shops and restaurants that are trying to get back on their feet, and and they're not, you're not giving them the business to get out. So I know it's a problem. I know everybody's aware of it. I just feel better talking about it, so I get sleep tonight.
You're spot on, Bill. I mean, there's, we're paying very close attention to these numbers too. I think also, if I'm at a property and I can hear construction going on nearby, that's going to affect my vacation. I mean, all of these factors we're going to have to work through. And, we know, I mean, you don't have to look very hard at the numbers to the north and to the south. They're benefiting from our challenge, as we would if it was their challenge. So I think, I believe we have such a loyal visitor, they will come back, but they are hesitant because of our current situation.
We've seen, I've talked to some visitors who stayed the last 6 months, and they stay inland, like say the High Regency or inland. They go shopping, dining, golfing, and to them, they've never seen a hurricane. There's no sign of it anywhere in that 5-mile region. They're down Estero, Bonita. So I think there's two sides of that. Then you see people that stay at the beach, and they see the total devastation, and I think that's a little bit the problem there.
Exactly.
100%.
Yeah. Until you come over the bridge to Sanibel or Fort Myers Beach, you wouldn't know that there was a hurricane.
Right. And that's, unfortunately, that's what we're going to deal with,
Joe, one question. You said something across the state during April and June, you're seeing a decline. Is that what you said? When you say across the state, are you talking East Coast, everything?
Yeah, admittedly, we don't work with every place in
Right,
the
I
state,
understand.
but we work with a nice swath.
Right.
There isn't a lot of sunshine and lollipops and numbers looking up across the way. In fact, one of the things I've been saying in a lot of places that haven't been dealing with a hurricane, if you're flat in 2024, it's probably a win. Just based upon a lot of normalization across the state. Florida benefited greatly in 2021 and 2022 in general. Again, I'm speaking generalities. 2023 was a little bit of dip. I think we're going to, and again, I'm calling it a normalization because we were kind of artificially inflated. It's kind of like that graph is getting to where it was supposed to be if there would have been nothing, and it just would have been normal growth. So I think that's what I meant in that regard, Mr. Lappy.
And other things. I mean,
Yes.
there's so many factors, right? Presidential election years impact travel. I mean, you say it doesn't happen, but it does. I mean, you can track that over time. It does. So I think, there's, it sounds crazy. It sounds like you're crazy when you say things like that, but really those trends do. I think also, I don't know about you guys, but every friend of mine this last 6 months or year has gone to Europe. There's other travel decisions that are being made. That's because for a few years they couldn't go to Europe. So, some of those things are our challenges.
The largest ship ever built, the Icon, Royal Caribbean, is sold out for the next year.
40,000 people.
Yeah, sold out. I mean, crazy.
Unthinkable, right?
Unthinkable.
Yeah. So
Question, Chair. When we're talking about this, it would be great, we see our stats, right? But I think this was what Tony kind of alluded to, is a great opportunity for us to say, with other areas around the state, how can we set those down and compare? So are they going up? I mean, Tam, you might have the opportunity to, with your circles, to say, can we share this information? So we have an idea of the changes that have taken place and how that is affecting other areas.
Yeah, I'll
in the
talk
state. In the
you know,
state.
Obviously, the easiest thing to do is have Joseph, who's doing a few others. You always get the STAR report that has the competitive set, so you can see how we compare to other areas in the state in terms of actual numbers.
Right.
It's that forecasting that's the challenge, right? So I don't know that everybody does it exactly like we do, but we could certainly have that conversation. Maybe we could get a call of your clients together and see if we could do some sharing. But I can tell you, based on what I've been tracking in terms of STAR, as challenging as we're facing, everybody has faced a challenging year.
Right, and I understand that, but I'm looking more at the satisfaction and visitor concerns as a comparative, because I think that would give us a great opportunity to just see, how we are and as we're getting back.
Yeah, I think ours are good. That for us is going to be more challenging than our competitors, obviously.
It is, and just a note real quick, like we can't really share hard numbers, but I always try to give you sense of direction, so I share what I can. But a good point is something we could talk to some other folks as well.
And honestly, most of these documents are publicly available. We post all of these on our site. No doubt they're posting theirs on their site, so probably can share those with you.
And that was exactly what I was going to say. We're public right now.
Right.
They are too. There are other destinations.
Almost all of them, yes. So
Jake?
I suspect they're out there.
I have a question on price. Said 1 in 5 had an issue with price. Is that hotel room price or price of everything around it? Because I look at the comparative STAR report we have the lowest ADR in our competitive set.
Because we don't have any, we have a very small number of coastal rooms, is why we have the
That's why I'm wondering
lowest
if
competitive set.
the price issue is still 1 in 5. Was that because of hotel rates?
We don't know that directly from the survey. We just ask a question like, hey, were there any concerns? And they say high prices. So at the same time,
I don't know that it's hotel related specific.
But what I would tell you, that's not an issue, 1 out of 5. Not an issue. Because if it doesn't come up, you're not charging enough.
Right.
It needs to come up, but
Right.
you just don't want it to be 4 out of 5, but 1 out of 5.
It's that, if you ask,
Push the
if that's one of the options, that's going to be one of the check boxes,
Right, no
right?
question. I just wanted-
Almost given.
Everybody's complaining about the cost of a Big Mac now. I mean,
I haven't had one in years.
Love a burger.
Yes, sir.
Like Holly was mentioning about a little more geographic specificity, when 30% say that traffic is the least favorite part of their visit, I think that more micro look might be better there as well, to give different areas that type of input.
Joseph is in the process of putting together our annual report, so we'll ask him to do a little bit deeper breakdown. I think looking at that quarterly probably isn't very good based on the number, but if you look at that on an annualized basis, that might make sense. So maybe we could do some little breakouts on a couple of those areas by visitor stay area, I guess, where they're reporting they stay.
Yeah, I totally agree. On a quarterly basis, there'd be a lot of noise in there, but on an annual basis, especially given the timing of this conversation as we're working on this report, we can put this together, but then also create some additional snapshots by area, because we should have a large enough sample size and on an annual basis.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, with that, I'm going to ask Brian to come up and give you a little overview of marketing performance the last few months.
Good morning, Mr. Commissioner, members of council. For the record, Brian Osowski, Director of Marketing for the VCB. I thought my title slide would be appropriate this morning since we are, in fact, just over 2 weeks away from the opening of spring training. And speaking of spring training, of course, we have a great partnership with both teams, but with the Twins, of course. Here's a peek at our new wrap sponsorship of the Twins equipment truck. As a matter of fact, it is on its way to Fort Myers as we speak and is scheduled to arrive right around 2 o'clock this afternoon. This is a 3-year partnership with the Twins. We're really excited about it. A lot of eyeballs on the truck as it makes its way from Minneapolis to Fort Myers. So last week, members of the marketing team, along with Tam and our Director of Sales, Jill Vance, went to Kansas City for planning meetings with our agency of record, MMGY. So as Tam mentioned, I have a lot of fresh information to share with you this morning, primarily focusing on our various marketing channels and how we're performing 3 to 4 months into the fiscal year. So right out of the gate, starting with paid media. These are some of the high-level metrics that we, of course, keep our eyes on. Impressions basically means how many sets of eyeballs on our messaging or on our content. Engagements, how many people interacted with our content. Inquiries, how many people took some sort of action. CPM, in this case, stands for cost per 1,000 impressions. And added value is what we receive or negotiate over and above what was budgeted or agreed upon. And added value is an important metric by which we, judge our media team at MMGY. You can see it sitting there right around $3 million over and above budget. So a quarter of the way into the year, and we are hovering right around a quarter of the way toward our paid media targets. On our way to 612 million impressions through the first quarter, we are sitting at 123 million, roughly 20%. 9.8 million engagements on our way to a 45 million engagement goal, pacing at around 22%. And just under 100,000 inquiries on our way to a 400,000 inquiry goal, or 25%. So taking a look at where we are in terms of media and the upcoming launches, you've heard me talk recently about a brand new golf video that was produced in partnership with Matador and golf influencer Lulu Gonzalez that rolled out this month. I've previously shared with you a custom New York Times crossword puzzle about our destination that has always launched. We have some custom content in Southern Living, the 4-market blitz that I've shared with you previously, Cincinnati, Grand Rapids, Detroit, and Minneapolis. Components of the blitz have begun this month to really help affect spring and summer travel from those 4 destinations, and then, of course, spring training. You see there in April that we do heavy up with some placements as we lead into the summer season, and then further down the timeline for the fall, Island Hopper, and once again reviving our Savor the Shore advocacy effort. Now, speaking of the new Matador piece, deliverables on that were a 3-minute full-length video that I don't have time to share with you this morning, but we also received 3 edited down versions that we called cut downs. I'm going to share one with you this morning. This one is primarily taking a look at off-course activities, food and drink, that kind of thing. Take a look.
Hey everyone, I'm Lulu Gonzalez, and I just wrapped this epic trip to Fort Myers. The islands, beaches, and neighborhood are incredible, but the best thing about this place is the vibe. Cheers.
You enjoy.
Went from swinging clubs to lifting mugs, closing out the day here at Hopsize Brewing. It's all on me. All on me. The islands, beaches, and neighborhood make you feel like you're at home even when you're on vacation. So if you're looking for me, I might be booking my next trip back to Fort Myers, because you got a fan in me. Thanks for having me, guys.
Matador has done a real great job for us over the years, and they have an awesome distribution. We like partnering with Matador on all sorts of things. So I included this slide this morning showing that the marketing team is in fact also supporting our sales team's efforts through placements for groups, meetings and travel trade, and you see a lot of placements rolling out each and every month all the way through June. Moving into email performance, email goals. You see across the top there on the right, 3 percentages, 39% for a direct open rate, 31% for a reader service open rate, and 30% for a lead gen open rate. And basically when we talk about an open rate, when we send an email to someone, we're measuring how many people actually open the email. On the second row, those are click rates, and basically all that means is once the email is opened, someone takes an additional step and clicks on some of the content or one of the links within the email. So through the first quarter, how do we measure up? Our direct open rate is pacing a little bit behind our annual goal, sitting right now at 33%, but we are above our target of the 2.6 click rate, earning 3% of clicks. Reader service, 32% open rate, right on target, as is lead gen. Now, direct basically refers to subscribers that come directly from our website. They signed up for e-news or were served up a modal. These folks tend to be the most engaged with the brand. Lead generation basically means any campaign that we've run in the past with the goal of growing our email subscriber base. And finally, reader service leads. This is a term that's been used over the years. You know, you get a magazine and there's that card in the magazine. All of it's digital nowadays, but back in the day you would circle the advertiser that you wanted to get more information from. We would get those leads and then provide the follow-up. So some of the email templates, the creative that the team has been working on. This is our primary brand email template. This goes out to our full consumer subscriber base on a monthly basis. We also have a welcome series that features 3 different emails spaced 2 to 3 weeks apart so that when someone signs up to become an email subscriber, we want to engage them right off the bat. So we've designed these to be what they say, we're very welcoming. And then finally, our current brand campaign is My Fort Myers, and these templates represent the My Fort Myers ambassador effort. So moving on to social media through the first quarter through December 31st. This is our percentage to annual goal completion. Social to date, through the end of December, has driven 155,000 website sessions, approximately 20% of goal on our way to 780,000 for the year. 26 million impressions, roughly 23% of goal. 830,000 engagements, 23% of goal on our way to 3.6 million. And you'll notice video views pacing a little bit behind. It's a very aggressive goal this year for 25 million video views on social. Right now through Q1, we are hovering right around the 3 million mark. We have a lot of new video content. We'll continue to ramp that up as we move into our spring efforts. In terms of top performing posts on Instagram, you see there on the left for Q1, it was the opening of Margaritaville. And on Facebook, you can see the first 3 there are wildlife has pretty much stolen the show in Q1. So now coming out of those MMGY planning meetings, I wanted to share where things stand with social media, some trends and best practices that we're taking a look at. Travelers are indeed using social media to search for trip information and inspiration, with 58% of active travelers using it to look for things to do, and right around half looking for places to stay. In terms of content from destination marketing organizations like ourselves, authentic experiences and the associated content are what is most valued. This is probably no surprise. With all the Elon Musk and X news, active travelers are leaving the platform previously known as Twitter, with 38% planning to use it less over the course of the next year. Instead, Gen Z and millennials are turning to Instagram for trip inspiration, and we're seeing some Gen Xers actually turning to YouTube. When asked as part of the Portrait of American Traveler study that we get from our agency, 26% of active travelers who are not on YouTube are actually planning to use it over the course of the next year. In the past, you've heard me talk a lot about our robust influencer program, And content creators do indeed have an influence on travel decisions, with 46% of active travelers currently following at least one influencer on social media. Now, 73% of people perceive that the content that the influencers produce are indeed authentic representations of a destination, and for the Fort Myers area and our prospects specifically, 82% feel like the influencers that we're working with are providing authentic representations of the Fort Myers area. All right, moving on to website performance. And talking website, you see across the top there, Control Tower Personalization Performance. And what the heck is Control Tower? It is our new digital experience platform, or DXP for short. We like our acronyms. It's a tool that allows us to actually personalize our messaging across all of our digital owned and operated channels. That basically means that we're able to really hone in on the very specific content that visitors are looking for and that they're most interested in. We can also serve it up to them in a lot of different ways. So we're doing very, very well with our personalization efforts. These numbers are versus before we were personalizing content and messaging. We have 760,000 new visitor profiles that we're personalizing content for. That represents a 230% increase in the engagement time on our website, 68% increase in the number of views per session, 55% decrease in bounce rate. This is one of those metrics you want to see go down. Basically, a bounce rate is someone comes to our website, they go to the only page that they landed on, and then they leave the website. The lower the number there, the better. 113% increase in accommodation partner referrals, and a 438% increase in email signups, over 4,000 leisure email signups between October 1st and January 15th. Very, very pleased with our personalization efforts. We're also extremely pleased with our webcam efforts. We could not be happier. The results that you see here are from the 9 webcams throughout our communities that are live on visitfortmyers.com right now. You see over 100 or nearly 140,000 page views. That averages 1,300 a day, which is pretty incredible. It's more than I had been anticipating. It is the second most viewed page on the website following the home page. All totaled, views on the webcams represent 320 days. We have a strong repeat audience, and we are on track for nearly 500,000 page views on our webcams by the end of the year. Now, I mentioned we have 9 cams live right now. The team is working on the next 3 locations that are tentatively going to be out on Fort Myers Beach in the Times Square area, out at Lovers Key State Park, and at Sanibel's Lighthouse Beach Park. So listen to this. For Q1, Manatee Park accounted for 32% of all of those webcam views. This is just a screen grab from the other day. We have been seeing a lot of crowds at Manatee Park this time of year. Of course, the manatees like to come in to the warmer waters. It's been a little chilly for us outside, and a lot of activity at the park and on the webcam. Now for a riveting discussion on paid search. When we talk about paid search, basically what we're talking about is how we appear in Google and Bing search results, tied to certain keywords and phrases that people type into the search bars. Now, in our case, for keywords and phrases, that represents over 19,000 that the team is managing. From October 1st through January 23rd, this has yielded 306,000 clicks and roughly 24% of our total website sessions for that period of time. About 84% of that spend is on incremental keywords and phrases, meaning non-brand campaigns, and about 10% of our budget is spent on international search efforts. So you heard John Lai earlier talk about partner referrals, and I grabbed this screenshot from Google Analytics to show you that we are also doing very well in partner referrals. For Q1, over 42,000 referrals for accommodations, 8,500 for partner activities, 1,800 restaurants, and so on and so forth. There was a concern when we launched our new website, because we took more of a content-first storytelling approach, that we might falter, or our metric might go down a little bit when it comes to driving traffic to our partner websites, and that has just not been the case, and we're really proud of that. In terms of what we get versus what we're spending, the travel industry average cost per click is $1.63, and it doesn't take a mathematician to do the math that this can add up very, very quickly when you're spending against those 19,000 keywords and phrases. We have one of the best paid search teams on the planet at MMGY, and we've been averaging, not only for Q1, but most always, around 45 to 55 cents cost per click. So very efficient, highly monitored, highly targeted traffic to our website. Doing a great job. So when we talk about the various keywords and phrases, we have a plethora of categories. Here are some of our top shelf categories. Of course, travel is like someone searching for a relaxing Florida beach vacation. For lodging, Florida family resorts, Florida vacation rentals. On the activities front, best kayaking beaches as an example. Events, 4th of July getaways, Christmas getaways. Weddings, people search for Florida destination weddings, and we're serving up our content. For meetings, meeting venues in Florida, and then more along the lines of brand, people search for Fort Myers travel guide. Of course, these keywords and phrases are constantly expanding, and if we don't see a lot of activity on those, we also weed out the ones that aren't performing as well. So there's been a lot of talk about artificial intelligence, and Google is getting into the AI business. It is evolving very, very quickly. I just wanted to include this slide in there to show you what can be done with source video pretty easily and quickly. There along the left-hand column is the original video, and then you see how you can change the video through AI along the way to have it suit whatever you'd like to use it for, or if it's just to have a little bit of fun. In terms of campaigns and creative, we got a short video put together to share with you to show what the team has been working on. Please keep in mind that what you're about to see this morning is not final. There's still color correction that needs to be done and some other tweaks. But the team, the creative and production teams, have been doing a lot of work, and I wanted to share some of that work with you this morning. Take a look.
Welcome to the islands, beaches, and neighborhoods of Fort Myers. Call me crazy, but I always come prepared. What kind of experiences are you looking for? Accommodations tour in progress. Over. In addition to comfortable rooms, many Fort Myers properties offer open-air dining and meeting options for on-site and off-site indoor and outdoor options. Sorry, I'll get it all.
I left that last little scene, that last outtake in there because that was literally the only mistake, if you will, that our talent made the entire shoot. Folks on my team, L.A. Thompson has been working with Jill's team on a brand new meetings campaign, a photo shoot, and an interactive video. Overall, as I mentioned, the teams have been super busy. Over the course of about a 1-year span, we have executed 2 shoots for the My Fort Myers Ambassador campaign, a lifestyle photo, video, and social shoot in May of 23. Of course, the meetings video shoot in November, the meetings photo shoot in December, and 2 points of interest shoots grabbing new assets post-hurricane with photographer Nick Adams, with a third just about to wrap up. So we are committed to constantly generate fresh assets, fresh video content, a new approach to meetings, and we're keeping things moving. In terms of that meetings campaign, it is a work into play, the juxtaposition between having a business meeting here and enjoying, of course, all of the leisure type amenities that we offer. The print and banner layouts have been approved, and we are in the process of retouching some of those images. And then for the interactive video, the team is making some revisions. We are incorporating some new partner B-roll, and they are adding brand elements to the whole interface experience as we speak. You can look forward in a future TDC meeting to Jill Vance, our Director of Sales, to share this campaign with you in its entirety, images and the interactive video. I did not want to fully steal her thunder on this project. So that's what I've got for you this morning, and I'm glad to answer any questions that you might have.
Any questions for Ryan? Bill?
Bill.
The slide that you had on the paid advertising, is that including the brand name? The paid search?
It was paid search?
Yeah. There one, right there. Go back one, right there.
Yes, that's all. That's 100% of our spend.
So, but the terms, like, are branded terms?
Yes.
That's in that?
Yes, it is.
Is there any way I could see the number without that? Just because my opinion is this, when you add the brand and you do an advertisement, somebody might type in that name and still click on your paid search. In essence, that's a give me, in my opinion, just to see what the true number is. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. That's why we were looking at just under 85%, or just over 84% is on non-brand. So you're saying you would like to see the number?
The cost per click.
Cost per click without the brand keywords and phrases. Sure, we could pull that for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I always find with the advertising company, they love to include it because then their numbers look better, but it's like, they're already looking for me, so.
I actually think that all the time when you...
It's a little more generic than it would be for you, obviously. So
Sure.
a little bit more of a challenge, but I understand.
Yeah.
Because I look at these numbers, Bill, all the time, I think when I search for something in Google and then I see a sponsored result come up with the organic result just beneath it, I'm so careful to always just click on the organic result because I know somebody's paying for the click that I'm making on the sponsored content.
Right. So it skews the numbers. And then going back to the 9 cameras, I assume the Manatee is the most popular?
Yes.
Okay. What would be the second one after that? Or is Manatee that far?
Do you know which ones? I think it varies by time of year. I think Manatee Park is very popular right now because it's winter and heavy manatee activity there. But I think that, Bill, honestly, that may vary from time of year. And we're just getting started with this project, so maybe we can put some numbers together by month and share those.
And are other businesses able to link to that camera?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
No reason why you couldn't. I mean, just a link.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
I get a monthly webcam report from the agency. It actually just came in yesterday, so if you want to hang out after the meeting, I can look and give you the rundown of how the various cameras are ranking in terms of viewership.
People, we see it everywhere in our society, but people love animals, and you see the draw there. And I think we had beach days at the beach with dogs. I mean, it's going to bring people here, and nationally people do that all the time. It attracts people. People follow that, and they come here for ecosystem and also for the animals. So put a dolphin tank down at Pink Shell or something.
Yeah, I've got an Osprey cam that's the most popular.
Exactly.
I can't figure out how to make money off of it, but it's the most popular camera. So.
But it's keeping people on your website.
Yes. The marketing people remind me of that. Yes.
Yes, sir.
I had a couple questions, and one of them was the whole camera metrics. We're going to be able to see which cameras are clicked on and used to determine if people aren't going there very often, that maybe replace the location of that camera, so to speak. Is that kind of in the thought of watching the metrics of the cameras?
Well, I mean, our commitment was to put webcams in the various neighborhoods throughout the entire county so that viewers could see all the different places they could visit and things they can do. We're measuring it, obviously, just to see how each camera is performing, but at this point we hadn't discussed if it's not performing as well, moving it, but that could certainly be a possibility. If, as an example, 7 out of the 9 cameras are through the roof and 2 of them aren't doing so well, we might consider, after going through a full cycle, that maybe we freshen them and move them. Like in Cape Coral right now, we have one in the Butterfly house at Rotary Park, and if that wasn't performing as well, we could potentially find a different place in the Cape to put the camera.
I think the important part is we are trying to show potential visitors the variety of things they can do in our communities.
Right.
So the intent there isn't like to drive the most views, it's to show that there's a plethora of, additional things, and here's what it looks like. That's our intent.
Right, and as you would look at other additional placements somewhere, the Sunsplash attraction in Cape Coral is one of our, only water parks, that we have that for those people that are looking for some place to take their kids on a non-beach environment to enjoy the water, and Sunsplash certainly is a great attractor, for the variety that you're looking for, just as a suggestion. In some of the data that you gave, one of the things that really surprised me was in the email marketing, the difference between the open rate and the click rate. And then I know as you spoke of on our website, the use of keywords and whatnot. Is there any thought to how to improve the click rate? Well, once the person opens the email, which is great, then how do we attract them? Free is always a great clickable, so to speak, whatever. Is there thought of how to increase that click rate?
Constant thought. Constant thought. I mean, it really comes down to the content that you're serving up. You want to make the content approachable, but most important, you want to make folks feel that the content that you're serving up was served up just for them. And so our personalization efforts even cross into our ECRM program. We've got dedicated, for lack of a better word, modules through various emails that we can swap out based on a visitor profile that has been built on the visitors, showing what their primary interests are. So as an example, if someone is interested in nature over, say, I don't know, golf, we could swap out a module for that individual. They would receive a piece of content about nature, and if you're a golf enthusiast and your visitor profile and how you've interacted with us as golf, we could change that to golf content. So for us, moving forward with Control Tower, we're going to try to increase those clicks, basically not only through the look and feel, but having very personalized content.
And just to add a little bit to that, some of those are co-opt, and so that's partner-provided content. And even them we work with to say, hey, yours didn't perform as well as this one in the ad. You may want to think about changing it up and that sort of thing. So it's an ongoing conversation that, is a constant for us.
We've also toyed with the idea of starting a story on email and finishing it on the website.
Absolutely.
That kind of thing. Just to pique curiosity, use curiosity as a click driver, yeah.
Just out of curiosity, Brian, as we're talking about click rates, what's industry average?
Well, at the top, you see 2.6%. That's actually a little higher than industry average. So when we charge MMGY with coming up with goals and targets, industry average is never good enough for us. We always go above and beyond for the different types of subscribers. So the averages are just going to be a little less than what you see there at the top for our goals across the three subscriber types.
Right.
And white is the measure of just.
I understand. I just know that we all like to focus on click rate, and it's rare that you ever see it out of single digit. Even when I give away something free with a click, I'm still lucky to get 10%.
Yep.
So when we started,
It would be 3 times that.
I understand that. But that's free, and you know, it's.
Well, my thought about the free part is when we think about, you know, the businesses that, like we're talking about Sanibel, and that we need to get the people out there to support the businesses while the room availability isn't there. If there's some way to connect up, comments around certain areas that would be a great place to go, that would take them to that spot on our website, for the business partners that are involved in that. Just something like that, whether it's free, whether it's, whatever it is, to direct maybe where we need some infusion to have something that would attract them to click through for that purpose.
I just warn against free. Those tend to be your people that want 17 lemons and the sugar caddy and water.
Yeah.
That's where they're at.
Okay.
Does that mean, do you want to do the A/B testing, where they run the 2 different ways?
All of our email campaigns, we A/B test.
Okay.
Absolutely. Every newsletter is A/B tested.
So an example of A/B testing is, say you're going to run a 25% discount. Well, you can run the 25% discount in one ad, and another ad you could do 4th night free. So 4th night free, which one does better? Typically 4th night, the word free is usually grabs them more, but you run it and see which one does better.
I would imagine our click rate would go through the roof if we said free stays at Pink Shell Beach Resort.
Yeah. Well, but we don't have to tell them at that point it's the 4th night.
You might be hiring a new GM then. So.
Probably a new marketing guy too.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Brian? All right. I have one last thing for you. At each one of your places, you will see an invitation to the Tourism Ambassador Luncheon. So if you want to put that on your calendar, I am 100% certain we will be sending you an Outlook invite that will go right into your or an email invite that will go right into your personal calendar. But this is a reminder that that's coming up on Friday, April 12th. And if you haven't ever participated in that event, I strongly encourage you to do so. You will be amazed by the people who at that event.
What time?
Usually around
11:30 to 1:30.
11:30 to 1:30.
Sam, you guys always do such a great job on this. I mean, it's fabulous, but this is so cute. How the guest was one.
Oh, I love it.
Creative. Whoever came up with that, kudos. It's very, really cute.
They're amazing, as you know, a team of people that make this thing go. Thank you. That's it for my report, sir.
Thank you. And we'll have now a report from Jeff Milpey, Sports Development Director.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, Council. Today we're going to go over the last 3 months of 2023 and then give our calendar year annual report. So in October we hosted 12 events, 18,000 hotel room nights generated through those events, brought in almost 17,000 sports tourism visitors, generated an $8.4 million direct visitor spend. As always in October, anchored by Perfect Games World Wood Bat underclass, 210 teams over about a 5-day period over that Columbus Day weekend, 14,000 hotel rooms. Also had a senior softball event of note, Florida Youth Soccer Olympic Development Program, continuing to bring Kelly Road back to life after storm surge went over our marquee soccer complex. So it's great to have some activity there. And also, not on the sheet, but I wanted to mention that we supported Edison Sailing Center's 40th anniversary of their River Romp Regatta, which is also a U.S. sailing junior Olympic regatta. So a very reputable event in our destination. You can see the bar chart, obviously 2022 with 0 immediately after Hurricane Ian. And what is cool about October is that we would have been our best October ever had not in 2020 when we were recovering from COVID and we were open for business in October and Palm Beach County was not. So West Coast, we made the business decision to get back open. The East Coast of Florida was not. They were still in lockdown. And we took not only did we host that year Perfect Games World Wood Bat Underclass, we also took the Jupiter event, which was the World Wood Bat National Championship, and added it to our inventory that year. So, so had it not been for that little, that little coup from the East Coast that year, this would have been our best October. So, on to November, we hosted 9 events, generated 34,000 hotel room night stays, 19,000, almost 20,000 sports tours and visitors. A direct visitor spend of $17.5 million came into the destination through sports. And again, anchored like in October, baseball with Perfect Game. This November is anchored by Roy Hobbs World Series. Had 290 teams over 5 weeks. So a fantastic impact for us. And then it turns into basketball season for us, and I went over some of the numbers, I think, in our December report, but we had the Fort Myers tip-off with the 7,200 room night showcase, which featured the young lady on the right, Caitlin Clark, versus FGCU, and Kansas State had generated 3,600 room nights, all of which were at the Hyatt Coconut Point. We also featured senior softball winter nationals. Also, we hosted one of our 2 annual sports conventions in town. USSSA's national convention brought about 1,000 convention attendees to Sanibel Harbor Resort in November. But we also want to remind everybody that in these numbers, not only are they room nights, but in this particular month, there was a lot of media value, which we're still waiting to get the final numbers. Proof the data that has come through Intersport, but we've already reported that the Fort Myers Tip-Off Women's event on Thanksgiving night was the most watched women's game in Fox's history. So still having not only significant tourism impact as economic impact spend, but the media value is also coming in. So you can see we squeaked out. Too bad Rob's not here, because Rob always gives me a hard time about bragging about our best years ever. But we squeaked out a historic November just by a couple room nights. So again, you can see the low tide there at 2022. We just started to bring a few events back into our destination, but in 1 year later, recovering well. Has certainly sports has a there's desire to come into our destination for sports events. December, we had 14 events, 12,000 hotel room nights sold, 12,000 sports tours and visitors, $4.8 million direct visitor spend. They were, smaller events, but more of them. 3,200 through Perfect Games National Showcase. We had 1,200 through our partnership with Cape Coral BMX Club over at their facility. The Florida Junior Everblades down in Estero with 1,100 room nights. And we also hosted Senior Softball USA's National Convention in the month of December as well. So now you can see the December trend, our second best December that we've ever had. So to our 2023 calendar highlights, this was our best year ever as it stacks up to fill in hotel room nights. 2021 was our benchmark at 180,000. We slightly improved at 188,000. If you'll remember last year, we were on trend to break 200,000 room nights. We were having a phenomenal year before Hurricane Ian hit. So this would have been what should have been our second best year if it hadn't been for that storm. But still, 1 year later to have our benchmark year, I think, is a testament to our sports the sports culture of our community and the facilities we have available, and the desire for people to attend our destination. So, brought in 164,000 visitors, an $82 million direct visitor spend, 143 total events. We had historic high marks in January, February, June, and as we mentioned, November. We continue to pursue international sports business. In fact, under normal years, I'd be in Spain right now. Some of our colleagues arrived yesterday for the World Baseball Softball Confederation meetings in Europe. We did send a representative to that event. So, but again, looking for international business. And mostly what we did was constantly we're reminding our partners and potential partners that Lee County is open for business and that we still have a desirable location to bring your events, and that yeah, we might be having some trouble on our sand areas, but it's still a great place to come visit, and those sand areas need support more than ever right now. So I'll remind everyone, the Red Sox and Twins, as we're running right into spring training, last year finished second and fourth in total attendance. Again, just reminding everybody what kind of desirable destination we still were, even though spring training happened right after the hurricane. To finish second and fourth out of the 15 teams just tells the story of how strong of a tourist destination we still are. We were a major sponsor at the 2023 World Baseball and Softball Confederation Softball World Cup in Ireland, which you guys remember the photos of our logo on the outfield wall fence behind the castle in Ireland, which was pretty cool. We hosted the Florida High School Baseball State Championships for the 10th consecutive year. We just mentioned the 2 national sports conventions. And again, these basketball tournaments we're talking about, which also includes the City of Palms Basketball Classic in December, continues to add to the placemaking story that TAM and that John Talmadge with Economic Development, our county leaders, are evolving into, that it's not just about the silos we live in sports and tourism and economic development. We're all telling the story about how phenomenal we are to visit, work, live. And that, I think these 2 basketball tournaments really add to the allure of our destination, both from visitors and people who live here. To go be able to see Indiana versus Tennessee women on Thanksgiving night is something of value to the people that live here. And it's a bragging point, I think, too, of the great events that are going on. You can see the bar chart, and again, 2022 would have hit that 200,000 mark under normal years, but so this was a great year for us, and we're very, very proud of being able to impact our community in such a way. With that, we have so many partners in our community, and I always absolutely want to take a moment to say thank you to all the groups we work with, but especially Lee County Parks and Recreation. We hit our best year ever for sports tourism. We had 143 events, and those took place in a large part during when Parks and Rec was just getting slammed with recovery. And they're out on beaches and they're out in the parks trying to clean them up, and yet they helped us and their staff put together the operational plans to be able to put together a historic year for us. So I know Kathy's in the room, and Kathy, I hope you'll share with all of your team how appreciative we are for just the amazing hard work that Parks and Rec has done to get our community up and running over the last year. And then I will mention spring training's right around the corner. I know Victor's in the room. Just a couple weeks away, 2 weeks from Friday, both clubs open up against their college teams, and then I think Saturday and Sunday are the Grapefruit League games start. So hopefully it's going to be a great year. I've seen both schedules are loaded with good competition, and I think we're going to have a phenomenal spring training season. So, Commissioner, that's my report.
Yeah, thank you for recognizing Parks and Rec staff, because you said it about stepping up now to recovery, but looking back at the last 3-4 years, Parks and Rec staff stepped up during COVID. They're out parking years ago. Tamara, I know a lot of us were out there doing that, and just, everything from doing that, taking over, the Civic Center stuff. So, yeah, our Parks and Rec people are amazing. People don't like change, so I know from working with employees, we start changing their tasks, their duties, even where they park. But they've been really, really this top of the line employees to step up and take on challenges like this. So they really had to be commended. So thank you for mentioning that, though. Okay, great. Their next business will be a voting member.
Thank you, Chair. As it relates to the room nights and trends, one of the things that we're trying to focus on in Cape Coral is that the private room nights, that they're paying their fair share of the bed tax, and to warrant the types of funding that we request from the council. When you look at those, is there any attention paid toward the number of VRBO or Airbnb, the type of room nights that are booked through that? Is that included in this, or is that something that would have to be done separately?
To have a definitive answer, it has to be done separately. We used to have really good data when we didn't have as many events a year. We asked every promoter to have their coach or a parent fill a survey of where they were staying at. Now, we do have a local housing service. We have a great partner, Lee County Sports Organizing Committee. If they handled the business, they know exactly where it is. They know whether it was in a hotel, whether it was in a VRBO, and they also do a lot of cross-checking, as Tam was a part of a few years ago, of making sure that residents was paying bed tax. We would send the addresses to the clerk courts to make sure that everyone was paying their fair share. So, but if it doesn't come through our housing service, it's hard to determine where they're at. And when we do our economic impact surveys, we know the number of athletes, and we know approximately how many spectators came, and we know then we have a formula that says this is how many lodging units they had to have rented. But unless it came through the housing service itself, which about 30 to 40% of our business does, then we have to just guess.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
Thank you. Any other questions for Jeff? Good. Okay. Move on to the next business, would be approval of the quarter one fiscal year 24 budget report. Tamara?
I'm going to take this for April just because it's been a long meeting and I know everybody's probably getting a little anxious to get out of here. So first report you'll see is for VCB operations. For the quarter, 23% spend, pretty much on track on everything. I think the only area you see we're a little bit above what we would expect for quarter one is data processing, and that's just how our agreement or renewal agreements fall. So that's in good shape. In terms of the next slide, it's the beach and shoreline program. You'll see it's at 21%. And then last but not least is Jeff's sports development budget, which is at 33%. And that's mainly because your big promotional events, you have a couple of fall events. He talked about Gulf Coast Showcase and Tip-Off and Perfect Game. Some of your sponsorships, I believe Jeff is what's got that number up. But we're in good shape and on track in terms of our budgets and where we are. If anybody has any questions, we're happy to try to answer those. And if not, I would love a motion to accept the budgets.
I'll make the motion to accept the budget.
We have a motion by Bill Latrell. We have a second by Jay. Any other discussions? Any public comment on this item? Come back to the council. Any opposition? No opposition. Motion carries. Thank you. Okay. I just want to, for council information, I just want to share something. This week at our board meeting on Tuesday, I brought up an item, and I wanted to share with the council about was to get board direction. We didn't take any action other than have our staff review what we can do. So we all know this recovery from the hurricane is still long and far from beyond being done, as we heard today about the buildings being gone. But two of the local entities here, was the Sample Chamber Visitor Center from our beach. Chamber of Commerce has been really suffering because their membership, their business who pay in to keep them open, are really drying up on money. So we had tried to attempt to get some CARES Act money before, and also ARPA money, though we were not qualified for that. So my ask of our commission was to direct staff to see what we can do statutorily within TDC guidelines to use some funding to help them keep their doors open year by year. They'll be working, Andrea and her staff will be working with the two chambers to see what funds are needed and how it could be applied to help them keep their doors open. And if you see the numbers, like for example, Sanibel Visitor Center, how many thousands of people they contact a year that come through there as a visitor center, how that impacts tourism. So I think it's really critical that we help them as much as possible. I know John was here earlier, but I think he had to leave. But they're totally, the two chambers always full support of that. And I will keep you updated to see what funds can be used. They're going to be looking at that and to see what we can do to help them. Jay, do you have a question?
I do. On that topic, and throughout the whole meeting, we've kind of neglected to talk about Matlacha Pine Island, because that Greater Pine Island Chamber is in a similar situation. I know hasn't been discussed at all. If possible, to include them in that discussion.
I have no problem adding them to them, and it's something we didn't discuss early on, but we was looking, once it's approved, or see what we can do for a chamber, we'll open it up to see who's in need for that, to facilitate the needs for that. That was obviously been affected by the hurricane, because I'm sure everybody's going to be saying me, but if you take a chamber that's got full membership still because all the businesses are open, I don't know how we can statutorily do it. And also, it's got to be connected to tourism. Either that's why Sambo. So that's going to be an easier one for Sambo because of the visitor center, which is already incorporated in the language for statutory requirements for uses of funds. So the other chambers wait to find out, and wait to have that meeting with our staff to see what we can do to help them. Just try to help those businesses stay open because they're so critical to our community.
And at least on the Fort Myers Chamber side, we're in good shape and won't be looking for funds for this.
Right.
However, I just want to make sure we don't forget about Matlacha Pine Island, because it seems to be an area of the county that is often overlooked. The fact that we didn't discuss it all as we're talking about hurricane damage, Block 1 in Matlacha looks like a war zone still.
I'm glad you brought that up. They have not approached me about it, so I'll have them reach out to me or I'll reach out to them. So, Holly?
And we'll follow up because there was a sign-on by all of the chambers for the support of Fort Myers Beach and Sanibel Captiva. So we will find out because, if I'm not mistaken, they would have signed on for that. So we'll follow up on that.
Thank you. Okay, anything else on that?
Mr. Chairman, yes, I'd like to reinforce what Jay's saying. We went out to Matlacha this weekend, and it's just not there. It looks as bad as it did when the hurricane hit. So anything the community can do to help them.
I've talked about that. I've asked about that. Obviously, we can't go on private property, remove buildings at private property. So that's unfortunate what visitors are seeing, because you see a house that's halfway still in the bay, and it's not, so we physically can't use county funds or resources to go on private property. And the people are still working to try to figure out what they're going to do. I think it's getting to the point where obviously insurance is not working out. They're in litigation with insurance. So
from what I'm aware, there is a lot of litigation on the Pine Island, especially in Matlacha. There is an adjuster out there that said that the wind was.
if it's necessary. We had an accident yesterday, so traffic was slowed down. But there are ways that you can look to make sure you're maximizing your time and experience when you're coming to any of the destinations within Lee County. And I really hope people take advantage of that, because it's a way that you don't need to have a complaint, you can have a solution on your travel times. I know Brian was talking about events, so we're real excited that we are going to have our 4th of July parade this year. So I know that brings a lot of draw to Lee County. And we're excited to have it, and we also did vote that we will have some fireworks as well. Of course, we don't have a causeway that people will be able to enjoy them, but we realize that that's a sense of normalcy, and everywhere people love what we do on the island, so I welcome people to that. I know it's a little early. And I am going to I handed out to this side of the table. John had to leave, but these are some of the highlights that he talked about that are really informative on what's happening in the community. So those are my comments. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Len?
Yes, I have 2 items real quick. We hosted the first our global sports symposium along with Tiffin University out of Ohio last week at the Collaboratorium. We had over 2,000 internet around the world watching in, so we have to say it exceeded expectations. But not only did we do the forum, we visited the local high schools and sent the athletes, NFL, NBA, and Olympic athletes into the schools. The STARS program, and with Jeff's help, we were able to put together a program for FGCU. We also participated with the Chamber and the Lee Health programs, and I have to say it's exceeded our expectations. Hopefully we'll do it again next year. My other item is to bring up that the Chamber building is now vacant on the waterfront downtown Fort Myers, and it'd be a good item to start looking at how not just the city, but how the county could capitalize on that waterfront, whether it's it's deed restricted to public service. So we don't want to see it, we want to see it maximized for its best use. So those are my comments. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilman.
Thank you, Chair. Just to remind everyone, this Saturday night, you do not need a motorcycle to come to bike night. It is a fabulous thing that attracts people from counties around us. It's a great time on a street with a lot of food, beverage, bands. If you've never been, it's a great event to come to. And if you mark your calendar for March 23rd, we have an event. It's an annual event. It occurs out on Coral Oaks Golf Course. It's called Jazz and Blues, the sounds of jazz and blues, and it's an open air environment, huge stage, fabulous national and international jazz musicians come and play. It sells out every year. So you can go to capeconcerts.com, and you can get either normal admission or VIP admission. It's cheaper to get it ahead of time, but by the time the day of the event comes, it's sold out. So great event if you've never been. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Councilman?
Yeah, just like to say that we talked about the new hotel that's planned for Estero. We also have 5 total hotels that are currently before the Design Review Board to come online. No time frame at this point, but of the 566 rooms that the Estero currently has, we soon probably will have that number at least doubled. So that will be bringing more statistics to the information that you're bringing to us. We have also recently purchased, the village has purchased over 200 acres total of land that we're taking off the rolls of property that would be available for developers. We hear constantly about the traffic congestion that we have, that we're accused of being in the pockets of the developers, and we've removed 200 total acres plus that we're using for conservation, stormwater management, and part of that is the 50-some acres around the high school in Estero that we've got a joint use agreement that we've signed a 99-year lease to develop into recreational facilities will be shared by the school and the people of Estero in a joint use venture. So we're pretty happy and proud that we've taken some land and make it for something other than just development purposes.
Thank you. Tony, do you have anything, Captiva?
Raise mine, Jeff Milkey, who wins the Super Bowl? Had to ask. That's it. I'm done.
Tamara, you have any good news for us, or should we see you back in April?
We'll see everybody back in April. There's a whole bunch of items I put in your packet. I think some of those will be a good read for you. I encourage you to look through those things. Some good information from a variety of sources. So, yes, we're running and gunning. It's. I know it's not a normal high season, but it is very busy here, and our businesses are doing very well right now. Just want to see it continue.
I see Gammer's been somewhere at 5 o'clock somewhere.
I might have been to Margaritaville. I finally made my way down there and had an actual margarita. Not a margarita drinker, but I went down and had a margarita with my daughter was in town, and she wanted to try it, so we went down and tried it, and it was a lovely experience. And, we are really lucky to have all the kinds of investment we're seeing in our community.
I've only been there doing construction. I think I get down there being open, but it's.
The pool is now open. I have to admit I haven't been down to see it. I was traveling last week when the pool opened, but lots of activity and the projects that are coming, the projects that are being discussed on Sanibel, Fort Myers Beach. There's a lot of excitement around that, and I know that Bill, it's hard to see some of those numbers we're seeing right now, but the future is very bright. I'm confident.
I was down at Bill's place a few weeks ago. It was busy. I was down there during the day, and it was just busy, and people were coming down wanting to bring more businesses and more condos and high rises. I think that's the challenge they had down there. There's a challenge of the height of the residents on the south end of the beach down there, but hopefully they get it all worked out and see this. It's a good thing to. Rather people see them go up than go out. We don't need more urban sprawl than we have now, so I'd rather see the units go up anyway. So, yeah, his place is looking good. So, okay, we'll be adjourned. We'll see you now in April. Thank you.